I'm Jeff Hunt. He's Bill Thorpe. It's Tuesday.
The weather say fire wind. What's fire wind? It's like in a video game or something.
Is that what they called the wind?
Well, sort of.
Yeah. It's wild.
I'm talking about fire wind. What's the idea of just high danger from the wind and then fire danger? Because
ours was coming in from the southwest out in Elizabeth. I don't know.
Yeah, that's still
direction you were getting hit with.
I don't know. Well, where we are, because of our neighborhood, my wife and I sit in an odd place in the house in the neighborhood, and because of that, the wind seems to whirl and whip around in front of the house. So no idea where. In fact, the one bonus from being in this particular position based on the wind is that if anybody in the neighborhood leaves stray trash or anything in their yard, it ends up in ours. So I'm picking up a lot of stray trash that's not mine quite often, because that's just how the wind blow. Yeah, well,
it is a wild morning, windy, high fire danger, going to be 57 today. We'll get to the weather here in just a second. Blake will be back with us tomorrow. By the way, speaking of tomorrow, Billy and I doing a live broadcast from down in Colorado Springs at the Colorado Springs station down there, KZNT 101 FM, The Answer. And we'll be down and hanging out with folks in the Springs, which would be great. So be sure to tune in as this show has grown all along the Front Range. We are the Jeff and Bill Show, where you get both sides of an issue. We're going to have a lot to talk about today. Everything from Billie Eilish getting this Australian influencer deported. What happened there? We'll give you the latest on Savannah Guthrie's mom. Plus, Colorado prison work, now labeled slavery. There's a court decision we'll get into. Marco Rubio's speech in Munich, which I thought was fantastic. And then Ryan Johnson will be joining us from Game Day Men's Health a little bit later in the show as well. So, full show for you today, but most importantly, we want you to be part of the conversation at 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line 720-819-5115. And yes, Kathy and Aurora, we are back. Now it's time, Mr. Thorpe, for the news and weather.
Your KNUS forecast calls for a mild start to this Tuesday. Readings 40s, highs today, middle to maybe an upper 50. We will be looking at some strong gusty winds, especially foothills and locations on north. Temperatures tonight down to near 30, near 50 for a high Wednesday. A few rain and snow showers. Snow showers possible Wednesday night into Thursday and Friday. No real accumulations at all, even on grassy areas here across the metro area, but there will be accumulating snowfall up in the higher foothills and especially the mountains. Our high temperatures Thursday into Friday near 40, lows near 20. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center. .710 KNUS here in Denver.
And now on AM 1460 and AM 101.1, and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. I'll figure it out.
All along the front lines.
Yes, we're doing well.
Smells like napalm. All along the Front Range. This is the Jeff and Bill Show. We hear both sides of an issue. Billy, I kind of sent X into a little bit of a tizzy. If you go to x.com/Jeff Hunt. Just pointed out that no man should drive a Jeep with rubber ducks on his dashboard. Thank you for your attention to this matter. 151,000 impressions as of this morning. Nearly 10,000 likes.
Jeez.
And the whole Jeep community is coming after me.
Really? Why? Because of stuff on them? Tell me what. What are they mad about?
Apparently this is like a thing.
Yeah.
I guess you swap ducks.
Again, not a Jeep person, have no idea.
Yeah,
but
you don't know about this?
It seems like I've come across something like that in the past, something weird like that. But okay, sure, I'll play along.
Yeah. And people are like, this is what we do. And then other people are saying, Jeff, you didn't even need to include the ducks. Could have just said no man drives a Jeep.
I don't know. Some of those Jeeps, and especially maybe some of the military members might disagree with you on that one.
True story.
Yeah.
True story.
Maybe.
But sometimes you get stuck driving, family members' car. My daughter, for instance.
Yeah.
I got to drive her car. It is all tricked out.
It's all ducks?
It doesn't have ducks.
What does
it's
that
got stickers all over the place, and her little sassiness comes through. And you're just kind of driving, and you're like, okay, I wonder what people think of me.
Oh, no, it's just stickers? That's all you got on your daughter's car?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're an amateur. My daughter has gone like full on in where it is a pink furry steering wheel. There are covers on the mirrors and the sunshades that are pink. There are a couple of ducks around the car, but her thing is she challenges her friends. I think there are 16 trolls that are hidden in and around the car on the inside, and so she challenges her friends when they get in, can they find all the trolls? So there are trolls everywhere, and I drive that thing proudly. I am happy. Oh, and there is a pink furry cover over the seatbelt. I am happy. I rock that thing. I will wave to people. I got no problem because, okay, now, some of y'all may have just been joining the Jeff and Bill Show. You have to understand that my better half, my wife, we've been married more than 2 decades. She has the wonderful insight to control some of my worst impulses. And a number of years ago, I got this thing. I found a really, really inexpensive smart car on the internet. It was a good value, not necessarily a great car, just good value for the money. And my idea was, I want to get it, and I want to go out there, and you can buy these things, get some large stickers, etc., that are Mario Kart themed. I was going to turn the thing into a little Mario Kart. I was going to have a little number on the side. I was going to have like little things in the back, little shells, and I was going to have numbers. I want to see if I could put stripes on it. And what I wanted to do is every time I went driving, I wanted to then go out and get the most ridiculous looking bicycle helmet I could find. And every time I hit the highway, I would put on the helmet.
That's awesome.
Because that way, somebody's got a story. My wife's like, I am not riding with you in the car. I'm like, I'm not asking you to. This is me. And she's like, we're not doing that. And she sat there and she did the math. And she's like, do you understand how expensive this funny joke is to you? But it's good. She goes, just shut up. No, we're not doing this right now. I'm like, fine.
It's known as Jeep ducking. Also known as Duck Jeep. It's a custom among owners of Jeep vehicles in which they leave rubber ducks on each other's Jeeps. Originally Wranglers, but now including all Jeep models. The origins of the gesture have been attributed to one Allison Parliament, a Canadian resident in Alabama. In 2020, during the early days of the pandemic, she had purchased rubber ducks to hide at a Canadian friend's house as a way to thank the friend for letting her visit. After having an unpleasant interaction with another person in the parking lot of a convenience store, she stated that she felt inspired to leave one of the ducks on a Jeep in the store parking lot with a simple note stating, "Nice Jeep," as an act of kindness. The owner of the Jeep saw Parliament place the duck and suggested that she make a social media post. Parliament made the post, which then went viral and popularized the action of ducking. In 2022, it was estimated that Jeep ducking Facebook groups had 500,000 members. By 2023, it had become common to see rubber ducks on the dashboards of Jeeps. Some owners only perform the gesture on certain more classic Jeep models, with some limiting it to the Wrangler models, while others are less selective. Ducking a Jeep is considered a random act of kindness. However, not all Jeep owners are enthusiastic about the practice because most feel it's a Jeep Wrangler thing. Drivers who are ducked use the hashtag #DuckDuckJeep to post to social media.
Interesting.
I just think it's weird to have all those ducks on the dashboard, especially if you're a dude.
Thing for me is I like the embracement of individual personality. I like that. I think that it can be quirky as long as, it's not too, over the top ridiculous. Oh, okay. I disagree. I'm all for the over the top ridiculous. That's fine. I worked in an office park for a while where I don't know. I never found out who the person is, but for months on end, they were my hero because they obviously had 3 different vehicles they would drive to the office. And each one was basically a mock-up from a different movie. They had the Jurassic Park Jeep.
Those are my favorite.
Yeah.
I love seeing those
I
out there.
love that. They had done the Ghostbusters.
Really?
Yeah, they had a ghost.
Like the full, like the actual car? Or
the
was it
stuff?
just...
Yeah, no, the actual car, stuff on the top and everything. It was fantastic. And then they had a Herbie the Love Bug, which I just liked. And that seemed to the Herbie was the one that was driven the most.
No DeLorean.
No DeLorean.
I would have thought out of the mix of all that, they'd have a DeLorean.
My guess is probably too hard to keep working.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's my guess. That's got to suck. Yeah.
So there's a similar Moo Moo Subaru movement on Facebook.
What? Moo Moo Subaru.
With little rubber cows that you put on Subarus.
Oh, I thought we were just dressing in those big, like, cloak-looking things when you get a little too large to wear the pants.
Owners of many vehicles engage in the practice of ducking as well, and some Chevrolet owners have developed sharking. Other copycat trends
inappropriate things to
include Yoda Toyota and Buck Broncos. There you go.
Interesting.
All right,
like
there you go. Well, I kicked off a debate on
have
X.
offended the Jeep population.
I have.
Yeah, all right. Normally it's
but it seems like more people agree with me than are offended, in part because there's 10,000 likes.
That's funny. That is great.
10,000 likes that dudes shouldn't be driving Jeeps with rubber ducks on their dashboards. All right. Well, here's some latest on Savannah Guthrie's mom, Nancy Guthrie. CBS 5 crime correspondent Brianna Whitney. She's an Edward R. Murrow, an Emmy award-winning journalist down in Arizona, had this to report yesterday.
Hi guys, we are now able to independently confirm some new information in the Nancy Guthrie investigation. This is from an inside source that is now reportable. I want to take you through the new information we've learned. We can now report investigators now believe this was a burglary gone wrong. We've interviewed multiple experts since this began who also said, based on the evidence, the surveillance video, and other aspects of this case, that they also believed this was not an intended kidnapping. As for Friday night's operations, law enforcement activity, we can now report from our inside source that DNA evidence is currently being tested that was found from that Range Rover at the scene outside Culver's. You could see when investigators were there, they put up a tarp that they were doing some sort of investigative work there. And last but probably most important, the widespread belief by investigators tonight is that Nancy Guthrie could be alive. We'll keep you up to date as we learn more. We are working on many things behind the scenes, but again, tonight, big updates. They believe this was a burglary gone wrong. DNA evidence is being tested from the Range Rover, and the widespread belief by investigators is that Nancy Guthrie could be alive. Stick with us. We'll bring you the very latest as we learn more.
What do you think of that? That she could be alive and that this was a botched burglary?
I think the botched burglary makes a heck of a lot more sense given what we talked about at the beginning of the crime, that there were kind of like 2 things. That the original break-in and alleged abduction seemed very well planned and thought out, but then any demand of ransom seemed very haphazard and not well thought out at all. And that would then make sense. The question I would have is, why take Miss Guthrie with you?
Yeah,
I can't figure that out.
I'm so confused.
Even if it's a burglary, why would you take her with you for all the reasons of, hey, we've just gone from burglary to kidnapping. We've increased the charges they can file against us because you could just as easily tie her up and leave her there in the house. If, again, I'm coming from the idea that they think that Savannah Guthrie's mom is still alive. So obviously they've come to the conclusion that the purpose of this was not to kill her. So if they've decided not to kill her, I'm going to run off the assumption that also means they don't want to kill her inside the home. So during the burglary, if death is not an option, you then have two choices if she interrupts you or you think she's not home and she is home. You either have to subdue her and tie her up and leave her there, or you take her with you. I'm surprised they chose take her with us because
She's
of all the plans.
84.
Well, yeah, and of all the plans of getting stuff out of the house, a person I don't think was probably in their plans to begin with.
Right.
Yeah, so that's a whole different idea.
There, as in it might be plural.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that if one person, I'm just thinking there may be more than one person involved. Maybe not in the break-in per se, but this is why this one person is going through something. They had to have talked to someone at this point, just because of how psychology and how your brain works. When you are confronted, this is the reason that things go viral. Your brain, when confronted with something that is unexpected and unusual, needs to work through it. And one of the ways to do that is to share it socially. It is psychologically hardwired into our brains. That's why things go viral. Oh my God, did you see this crazy thing or something I didn't expect to see? That is the motivation at the core behind it. So when you are in an instance and you kidnap somebody you weren't expecting to kidnap, got to talk to somebody. I mean, I don't know how or why or what that looks like or who, but in order to have your brain work through it, you need to do that. You need to talk to somebody about it. How many times have you talked to people and just talked through your problems, and only talking to someone, everything seemed clear?
Yeah.
That's part of the psychology behind it. That's why. And if this person isn't, they're really having some problems internally because they're still struggling with this unexpected incident and they're still trying to work through it. You can't do it alone.
And you did what? Take her to your house?
Exactly.
This is so weird to me that it would be a botched burglary, because if it's a botched burglary, you're running away. Right?
Yeah.
It typically, like, you're, oh no, somebody caught me. And you're like one of those cartoons with the...
Oh yeah,
and the feet run out the
or
house.
Or at least just tie her up. Especially she's an 80-something-year-old woman, and that's the part is she doesn't necessarily
gonna shuffle her out the front door.
Yeah, and for
that
me,
doesn't make any sense.
If it's a burglar, I'm leaving her behind, for whatever reason. Yeah, although this would be the kicker though, and again, I don't know where they are on this process. Let's just pretend. We will just pretend, and we have nothing. We're just talking about possible things that could happen inside of the house. If the burglar was masked when they arrived because of the security cameras, but didn't think or thought they'd turned off the security cameras internally, then if the burglar takes off their mask and then Savannah Guthrie's mom sees that burglar, now you have an incident of, they can identify me. I'm still not certain I get to the point of, well, obviously the solution is kidnapping.
Right,
but
seriously.
That's what I'm thinking. Why? What changes in that moment that says this person has to come with me?
But then what happened to the ransom letters? Were all those fake at this point?
I think we have two.
Bitcoin?
I think a couple of them possibly could be fake. There could be another one of all of a sudden this burglar now has an old woman and now sees on the TV who this old woman is and is thinking, well, maybe I could, since everyone thinks it's a kidnapping, maybe I do it this way, which early on in the analysis, that's what people had said, was that the break-in in and of itself seemed well thought out, and the ransom demand seemed very just slapped together at the last minute, which could hold true if it was oh my gosh, this is a burglary that turned into a kidnapping. But there's so many questions about how and the choices made by the burglar to begin with on that one. I don't know.
What do you think's happening? Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law Text line at 720-819-5115. Also part of the breaking news today, Jesse Jackson has passed away, the civil rights icon. And Mary from Wyoming texting in 1964, Mary was part of the youth chapter of the NAACP. In fact, she was the president of her youth chapter. Like the activists of today, we were organized. Our chapter leaders were pastors, doctors, and lawyers. They call the shots, and the youth members We did sit-ins. We were physically attacked with rocks, spit on, and jailed. We were nonviolent. Mary, call in. I'd love to talk to you about that and that experience, especially in light of the passing of Jesse Jackson, what that was like for you, what you remember. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Jason in Denver, a botched burglary makes little sense. Kidnapping her with no plan seems almost impossible to get away with. It is so long. Second, it was never botched. No police were ever called to the house during the initial break-in. Yeah, I wonder if they were trying to sneak in while everybody was asleep.
Yeah. They thought that,
And
or
then,
that nobody
Nancy,
was there.
Yeah, or no one was there, yeah.
Yeah, thought no one was
That
there.
happens a lot in these kind of vacation communities.
Oh, absolutely. And maybe the person had watched the house for a while and didn't think there was anybody there, and then just decided, I don't know. Yeah.
All right, let's talk Colorado Christian University. How should Christians navigate a world of division with faith, clarity, and hope? Join Colorado Christian University on March 13th at 7 p.m. for the President's Speaker Series featuring nationally known commentator, author, and legal scholar Hugh Hewitt, colleague of ours here at Salem. For decades, Hugh Hewitt has interviewed America's top leaders in politics, media, and culture, and now you can hear him live. In his presentation, A Flock of Black Swans, a breakdown of American politics and modern journalism, Hewitt will offer sharp, thought-provoking insights drawn from decades at the forefront of media, law, and public discourse, exploring the unexpected forces shaping our political and cultural landscape. This in-person event tackles the big questions of our time: how Christians engage in culture, speak truth with clarity, and live out conviction with grace in a divided world. This Christ-centered evening is open to students, families, and the entire community. Tickets are on sale now. Seating is limited. Don't miss this rare opportunity. Learn more and reserve your seat today at ccu.edu/Hugh Hewitt. That's ccu.edu/Hugh Hewitt. All right, more to come. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you get to hear both sides. We are The Jeff and Bill Show.
710 KNUS in Denver.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. We've got so many things to talk about that are the headlines right now. Jacqueline texting in, good morning, fellas. I don't have a lot of hope for Nancy Guthrie. For the whole thing doesn't sound right to me. I'm with you, Jacqueline, on this. Mrs. Guthrie had home security, and they even had masked people at the front door. She may have known who these people were once they got inside. If the abduction happened in broad daylight, someone would have seen something. But my niece lives in North Tucson, and she told me that the area was crawling with illegals and that there are encampments as well. Yeah, it could be cartel activity as well. We're also talking the death of Jesse Jackson. And we have a great listener, Mary, who served as the president of her local NAACP youth chapter, talking about her experience during those times. The violence that we experienced mostly came from white men, some white women, and the police. Neither side were wearing masks. Is that I remember the look. I do remember the look of the hatred on the white faces. I remember being shouted at. And what do you people?
Yeah, it's like the idea.
And
of
my
what do you
reply,
people want?
my reply was a decent paying job, a car and a house, just like you. Wow. Well, this country went through a 4-year civil war with 750,000 dead. And 100 years later, blacks in 1964 were still battling for equal citizen rights, moved off of the plantations and into segregated government housing called projects, getting an education in inferior institutions, and limited to slave jobs, a field work, cooking, in-house, and cleaning. Mary's perspective I always find fascinating. I'm always going to remember Mary.
Oh, yeah.
From this job, because she's generally pretty conservative in many of her political beliefs, active during the civil rights movement. And Bill, I do find there's a form of revisionism that takes place on both the right and the left with what happened in the civil rights era. I think there's kind of a revisionism that takes place on the left, as if what America did was uniquely terrible, and slavery wasn't happening in the rest of the world, and somehow we're the worst nation in all of humankind because we had slavery. And then there's revisionism that I think takes place on the right, which just seems to try to ignore all that altogether. And it's like it never even happened. I'm like, no, it was terrible what happened in the treatment of blacks, particularly in the South during the Jim Crow era. But I think America was at the forefront, along with Britain, in trying to get rid of the slave trade. So, just reflecting on that in light of Jesse Jackson's passing.
Yeah.
I think it's important for those on the right not to dismiss what happened to blacks in the Jim Crow era.
Yeah, I think too often that we as a society have refused, and I'm talking Americans, have refused to talk about the lingering scars of what happened during that era. We hear it from Mary from Wyoming, which calls in sometimes, about that we didn't understand and we don't have any perspective, and I don't, on how badly Americans were treating other Americans at that time, and their justifications when pulled back were ridiculous on their face and was just a way to paper over or make blatant racism look better. And I don't think that we haven't had that conversation. I don't think we as a nation want to. And there was just a few years ago where there was sort of an uproar in one of the southern states. I want to say Florida, but it may not be. It may be Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, somewhere in there, where the changes in how the kids were going to be taught history was that slavery wasn't all bad because the slaves were taught skills that then, once they were free, they could use those skills to go and get jobs and enjoy their freedom. And that didn't happen. That's not it. Through Jim Crow laws and segregation, they weren't just, hey, go take your skills. And no, they were told what jobs they could and couldn't have. They were their rights were taken from them. They weren't full citizens. And that's where I don't think that we are honest about it as a society. And I think part of the reason we don't want to have that conversation is because we don't want to take ownership. Instead, we want to blame. And what I mean by that is, rather than America taking ownership of our very difficult shared heritage, we turn around and say, it's not my fault. It was these people or those people. Or how many times when you've discussed the Civil War or you've discussed civil rights in the history of America have people said, but it was other black people that sold black people into the slave trade. It was the Africans that did. There were other countries that did. Other people did. I wasn't responsible for. No. And all of that is true. But we also need to acknowledge it as a nation. Again, on a side note, not necessarily in favor of reparations as far as writing checks to people. I don't think that's probable or possible as well. I understand the idea of how come me, whose ancestors weren't here at the time, would be held responsible for the sins of the past. But I think that's the core of what I go down to. And when I talk about the fact that we don't have this national conversation of reconciliation, because once you are an American, you are in many ways responsible for those sins of the past, even though you weren't here. In for a penny, in for a pound. And I'm not saying that all of us are now responsible for that original sin of slavery and racism. But what I'm saying is we refuse to deal with it and acknowledge that it is part of our past and then to move forward. We don't do that. And on a myriad of levels and on a myriad of places.
I guess what I just don't think is happening, particularly along the left, though, is this desire to move forward. I think it becomes this revisionism of degradation,
but
something like that.
Do you think
where it becomes this like stick to beat down America as if it doesn't happen in any other country, as if slavery never happened anywhere else? You had some people even saying that like we essentially invented slavery, which, I mean, if you look at the numbers, my goodness, the amount of slaves that the Portuguese took to Brazil, I mean, dwarfs anything that happened here in the United States. So I just don't feel like there's an honest assessment of the rest of the globe when it comes to slavery, and it becomes this unique bat to just beat the United States with.
Yeah, and this is the problem, and this is why I think what you're expressing is part of the reason that as a nation we can't have a national conversation about it, because we should acknowledge that other countries were doing it, and that's absolutely true. But just like America tried to forge a unique and different path, and we celebrate that, our representative government and the three co-equal branches, that idea, we need to be as honest about our history coming out of it as well. And it's ours. We don't have to say, well, other countries were doing X at the time. We treated this group of people awfully. Now, after the Civil War, for me, that's the real problem as far as a national conversation. Once we come out of the Civil War, we turned around and made slavery and segregation institutionalized in many other ways. And that is a continuation of the sin. And I wish we would be more open and responsible for that, to understand that for many ways, even though we did take the all the slaves off of the plantations, we decided to place them in other segregated portions of our society because we still weren't comfortable mainstreaming them. And that's something we just have to have a conversation about, because it's real. But are any of us necessarily responsible for it? Some of us fought for it on one side or another, but the country needs to heal, because as long as we turn around and keep pointing fingers at who did this and who's not doing this right, as long as you're pointing fingers to someone else, you're not taking responsibility ourselves. And that's what bothers me.
Mary from Wyoming texting in, while blacks are fighting for our civil rights, our country's been very generous with the Latino immigrant community. There's been 3 amnesties, which allowed those immigrants to bring in 17 relatives each. That community is competing for the same jobs, housing, education of the black community. Interesting. Mary from Wyoming, at one point the youth president of her NAACP chapter. Feel free to join the conversation, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law Text line at 720-819-5115. Let's go to the phone lines. Rod in Littleton. Good morning, Rod. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Good morning, gentlemen. Billy was talking about, we're not going to get over this if we don't stop the finger pointing. I think Republicans, as a general rule, have a very good history on race relations. Abraham Lincoln ended slavery. The Democrats all supported the segregation laws in the 60s and didn't want to back the civil rights legislations that went on. I don't think I owe anybody anything. And the reason I say that is, number one, my ancestors didn't come here until the turn of the century. But I don't foster any racist ideologies. I have fought against that personally, treating everybody the same no matter what. I think the left, and Billy, you brought it up, the education, wherever that was in the southern state, that wanted to say that, they during slavery, they taught the slaves skills that would help them when they became free. Who controls the education system? It goes back to the Democrats want to use and abuse. Lyndon Johnson said, if I give the blacks whatever, they'll vote Democrat forever. They use that and have used the minority populations for decades, and then they point fingers at the Republicans saying, well, you're the ones that are racist and fascist and all that stuff. I think that's the problem is, yes, I don't have a problem having the conversation, but we've got to be fair with everything. The left continually utilizes race to try to get their way, and Republicans are like, let's get on with life. Let's everybody be you. Live your life, and we're not going to hold anybody back.
Well,
Democrats
Rod,
seem to want to hold the race.
I don't know about that one. I'm not sure I agree with that one. Talk to me about someone in an office building or a setting that wants to be transgender. Talk to me about accepting people for who they are and letting them live and being individual. There's a whole hell of a lot there. There's a whole hell of a lot there.
We don't care. Personally, we don't care what you want to be.
No, yes, you do, Rod.
Billy,
Yes, Rod, you do.
Billy, stop. No. If you think about it, I don't care what your sexual orientation is, but you can't push that on me. That's the problem.
Nobody's trying to make you gay, Rod. Nobody's trying to make you gay.
They're trying to make me. They're not. They want to push their ideology to me. I don't want men, transgender women, in bathrooms and spaces with my granddaughters or my wife or my daughters-in-law. Right? And it's not because I think they're going to do something.
I know, but at first you're mad at the gays, and now you're mad at the trans, and that's exactly my point. You're just pointing fingers.
Brother.
Yes, brother. Yes, I brought up the trans, and then you went to the gays.
I don't give a darn about your sexual orientation or who you want to be.
You're the one that brought up the gays. Rod, you brought up the gays. I started with the trans, and you brought up the gays, and you wanted the gays not doing their stuff or whatever it is that you thought, and that's the issue. That's what I've got. You were the person, Rod. You were the person.
And you want to use it against. All I'm doing is a general statement.
Yeah, a general statement about liberty.
I don't care what your sexual orientation. I don't care about what you want to be.
Yeah.
But you're not going to make me do things that I don't feel are right. Right? Allowing people into a bathroom that doesn't belong or into a locker room when we're not going to allow that because it makes the women who we have – let's go back to just that. Men and women fought for Title IX. These transgender want to change that so that men can take over these women's spaces.
Yeah, unfortunately, Rod, that's not where I was going. Rod, where I was going before you brought in the gays, you did, I didn't. Where I was going was the idea of just using names and pronouns. That's it. And
Why do I
Rod,
have to use your name and partner? Hey, you, what's going on?
there we go. That's the thing is, where you talk about liberty and individuals making choices for themselves until someone wants to use a pronoun that may not be something you agree with. The example I have is Brianna Titone down at the Capitol. How many times have we had people that are proud members of the GOP and wear the MAGA hat refusing or making fun of her choice? Not about a bathroom that she wants to use.
I'm just confused as to how we got here.
Okay, here's the thing. Okay.
You took it from when my call was about race relations. You threw in the transgender. That's not the same thing.
Okay. Do I get a time? Do I get a point here where I can explain how we got here? The issue that we got here is because, Rod, when you talked about the idea of, and this is the point, the core of this is exactly what I was talking about. The idea that we spend way too much time saying the other people are responsible. You started this phone call, Rod, saying you are not responsible because your ancestors got here after. And then you spent the next number of minutes pointing the fingers at the Democrats, saying Democrats' fault, Democrats' fault, Democrats' fault, Democrats' fault. Despite the fact that the example, Rod, I'm going to finish, okay? Please.
Go ahead.
Okay. Now, despite the fact that the story that I had out of the educational system out of the southern state, you say, well, we know why that happened. That's out of Florida. That is a conservative state, conservative school boards, and that's the one. But you laid that directly at the feet of the Democrats. This is my point, Rod, is we spend way too much time turning around and saying it's that group's fault, it's that group's fault, it's that group's fault. Guess what? We are all Americans, and both political parties have been at times on the wrong side of the civil rights movement. We can accept that. Rather than turning around and trying to blame our political enemies for it, we should own it as Americans and try to move forward and say, this is awful, even though my ancestors are something else, or maybe my ancestors were here, but we need to move forward. And what your call is exactly the problem I'm pointing to, Rob.
I think we have moved forward. If you think about it, what party has done the most for the minority community through its history? It's not the Democrats. It's the Republicans. And we want everybody to move forward. We don't want to hold anybody back. But the Democrats continually use race to hold people back.
Rod Littleton, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Rod's line will be open, 303-696-1971. All right, let's talk game day men's health. We're going to have Ryan in studio with us during the 9 o'clock hour. I want to talk to the guys out there. Look, as we get older, we understand things change. Maybe you haven't been feeling like yourself. You're more tired, more fatigued, more stressed than you want to admit. The brain fog, absolutely real. Bill, tell them more.
Well, at Game Day Men's Health, we sat down with the owners and we looked at how they were going about doing things. And the issue is the other places that are out there, they have this large type of business model where it's more about top-down management, where the Game Day Men's Health is really like small business owners that happen to be franchisees. They're a network of organizations that are across the country, but each and every one of them operates like that corner business that you'd have in your neighborhood. See, what they do is they're data-driven results. And they make sure that these are non-invasive things to make sure that your body performs better naturally. Middle of the afternoon, maybe it's sometimes the morning, maybe it's the late nights where you're just running out of energy. Years ago, you could keep going all day, but now you need a nap. That's what Game Day Men's Health wants to look at. What are those hormones doing in your body? They'll take the tests. They can do many of them right there in the office while you wait, and then they set down an evaluation plan and a way to get forward. They talk to you about what is the best way and the best path to move forward and what is going to be the best choice for you. Here's one of the things that made the difference for Jeff and I is the fact that when we walked into their break room, not out in the front office where everybody can see it, this is the message for the employees. Kind of like that idea of, hey, when you get out there on the floor, this is what you're doing today, guys. You've seen that kind of like the rally cry they do inside of locker rooms with the football teams and the basketball teams. Well, that's what they have at Game Day Men's Health. They have this plaque that said, helping guys be better dads, better husbands, better men. That's true. Try their data-driven approach. Swing by, get the free testosterone check, see where your levels are, and they'll talk to you about the options. Jeff is actually doing testosterone injections at home. I'm visiting the clinic each and every week. So they have a plan and a program that fits your needs and your lifestyle. And they're right in your neighborhood. You can find Game Day Men's Health in Aurora, Cherry Creek, Parker, Inglewood, and Thornton.
Aurora, Cherry Creek, Parker, Inglewood, Thornton. Game Day Men's Health, GameDayMen'sHealth.com, GameDayMen'sHealth.com, helping guys be better dads, better husbands, and better men. More of the Jeff and Bill Show to come. You're listening to us on 710 KNUS in Denver.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. Yeah, this is where you hear both sides. Just under Rod and I go at it. We are the Jeff and Bill Show.
710 KNUS here in Denver.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show where you hear both sides. We'll get back to the debate. It is hot. Phone lines hot. Text messages hot. Reflecting on the life and legacy of Jesse Jackson and the civil rights movement and whether or not racial equality has been achieved. All that we'll continue to debate, but now it's time for a little silliness with Bill Thorpe's You Choose the News.
Yes, in one of the most awkward transitions ever, it's time to play America's favorite fake radio news game show. The fighting continues soon. This is You Choose the News. How does it work? Well, I have spent moments this morning scouring the interwebs for really dumb stories about us humans, slapped some extra headlines on top of them to make even more fun, and now we play. Now, why would Jeff and I waste valuable airtime this early in the morning? Well, once we found out that nobody with any power at all over the station doesn't wake up until 7 o'clock, no, we are left unsupervised. We are taking full advantage. Now, Blake Olson is off today, so Jeff has the duty to choose all three. Ooh, this is a big deal here. Can he handle this? Okay, all three are going to be your choices, Jeff. Here we go, sir. Headline number 1, it's not a suggestion. Headline number 2, hair-raising incident. Headline number 3, they shoot outlaws. And headline number 4, keeping it alive. Mr. Hunt, your choice.
Not a suggestion, please.
Yeah, this is not a suggestion. A contestant on the newest season of Love is Blind was recently hospitalized because, well, the title of the show is not a suggestion. During the last few seconds of the first episode of the Netflix reality show, Alyssa Finley, who's 38, is seen running into the women's open lounge screaming, "Oh my God, what did I do? F word, F word, F word." A producer calms her down, and she reveals she mistook her bottle of nail glue for her bottle of eye drops. She's just poured the nail glue into her eye. Here's the even more bonusy fun part. Finley works as a nurse in Ohio. Evidently didn't check the label on the bottle. Okay, that's helpful. She returned to the second episode, explaining to the other woman exactly what happened. She went to put in the eye drops. She noticed the bottle looks similar to the one she used in the hospital. Again, she works as a nurse and didn't check the bottle. Okay. After arriving at the hospital, she was hooked up to an IV. They flushed her eye out. She said it was awful. I can't believe I did that. Her eye was still hurting after treatment, but she was determined to return to the show because how can I be a C-level celebrity if I don't compete on this BS show that nobody watches on Netflix? Well, actually, a lot of people watch it, but it's still crap. Okay. Yeah. Nail glue in the eye.
Yeah,
that's awful.
And check yourself about being a nurse, too.
Yeah, exactly. The idea if you didn't check the bottle. Okay. Second choice.
You ever
Mr.
done
Hunt.
something really stupid like that when you're tired? Was she tired? That
I didn't go back and see
I had
it.
buddies
I'm
in
not sure.
grad school drive
what'd
off
they
with
do?
the car, the gas line still
gas line,
attached.
yeah.
In the middle of finals, they were so stressed out.
I'm
that type of
certain
thing.
I have done something absolutely stupid, but it doesn't pop up in mind because I'm thinking, what was on fire? Did I burn? I can't find anything. I'm sure there's going to be something there. But speaking of that, Mr. Hunt, hair-raising incident, they shoot outlaws or keeping it alive?
They shoot outlaws, of
Yes,
course.
they shoot outlaws. Now, here we find ourselves in the gaming realm. One of the most popular first-person shooters, Red Dead Redemption 2. Absolutely phenomenal game. But if you are a gamer, you know that accidentally deleting the save file is one of the most tragic things that can happen to a gamer. But there is something worse than accidentally deleting your save file. It's when a loved one does it instead. What do you do when that happens? Well, recently someone managed to delete their fiance's Red Dead Redemption save file by accident, but managed to make it up to them in the best way possible. Yeah, you can't bring the save file back, but they did get the main character, Arthur Morgan himself, to apologize upon their behalf. Now, Roger Clark,
cool.
Roger Clark is the actor that plays Arthur Morgan, the lead in Red Dead Redemption. He also makes some money on Cameo, so you can request a birthday wish or any other message from him. Well, on Twitter, Roger recently reached out to people and said, hey, this is what happened, and this request was one of the best ones that he ever said. He said, can you just read for me? I just deleted my fiance's save game in Red Dead Redemption by accident. She was having so much fun. I'm sorry. So the fact that the character apologized makes it better.
That's great.
Last choice, hair-raising incident or keeping it alive?
Hair-raising incident.
Hair-raising incident. Hospitality venues in Ireland are warning about a family coming around trying to scam people out of getting a free meal. They were caught on closed-circuit TV in a restaurant after running up a $600 bill. Dad reached into his shirt, under his arm, pulled out an underarm hair, dropped it on the plate, and then tried to scam them out of getting a free meal because there was hair on the plate. How did they know it wasn't out of the kitchen?
Cameras.
Dad was blonde. It was a blonde hair. Everybody in the back had brown hair. That's why they checked the cameras. Alrighty, that's it. Back to you, sir.
All right, the debate will continue into the next hour regarding Jesse Jackson's legacy. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS in Denver.
And on The Answer in Colorado Springs. We'll be right back.